Across the state of Alabama, there's a growing debate of what justice really looks like. And I'm not just talking about in courtrooms, interrogation rooms, routine traffic stops. And tonight, we'll hear from two men who spent a combined 50 years behind bars for crimes they did not commit, on what justice means to them. Frankie Benitez was just 18 years old when police knocked on his grandmother's door. Within days, he was accused of a double murder he had nothing to do with.
Amazed that I'm out now because I never thought it was going to happen.
Benitez spent more than 30 years in prison, saying detectives manipulated him into signing a false confession after hours of pressure.
They're throwing around, hey, you're going to get the death penalty. You're never going to see your mom again. I'm like, whoa, 18 years old, death penalty. I know nothing about the legal system.
You said this was your first time back.
Yeah.
But he'd soon learn not only about the painful pattern of corruption that landed him in prison, but the person he'd have to become to survive.
Gangs. Back then when I first got locked up, they ran everything. You had to go through them for jobs, for, cells, everything.
So this became your community inside?
There was still, murders happening in prison and, rapes and, people stealing from each other. So it was, you had to protect yourself, and the only way you could protect yourself is with a homemade knife. So, I mean, I had to do things that I didn't want to do. No, I wasn't violent, but I had to put on a face.
After 30 years and hundreds of unanswered letters and calls, the Exoneration Project found eyewitnesses had been pressured by police to lie.
It's difficult when you deal with recanting witnesses because they've been the victim of police abuse. And you're dealing with someone who is part of a corrupt system, and it's traumatizing to have been coerced by the police.
In Frankie's story, it's not unique. Records show a long pattern of misconduct within police departments across the nation under a system that disproportionately impacts men of color. Troyshawn McCoy, he was only 17 years old when detectives pulled him out of his high school homeroom and accused him of a double murder and robbery he didn't commit. He would later be known as a part of the Marquette Park Four.
3 detectives from Area 1 showed up, and the first thing they told me is like, don't try to run. We know what you did last night. At that point, I was escorted to the police station and placed in an interrogation room.
Scared and just wanting to go home, much like Benitez, he signed a confession to a crime he did not commit.
They promised me I would go home, but obviously I didn't go home.
At what point did you realize you weren't going home?
When they put me in a cell.
Immediately?
Yeah.
As soon as you signed that paperwork, they walked you to the cell?
Yeah, I was charged and put in a jail cell and was waiting to be sent to Cook County Jail.
McCoy served 22 years before Northwestern University found evidence clearing his name, fingerprints that didn't match. And while his case unfolded hundreds of miles away, stories like his are not uncommon in Alabama. More than 24 people have been exonerated here in recent decades, many convicted before DNA testing and modern forensics were available. That's why Alabama Congresswoman Terry Sewell says reform is not optional, it's urgent.
Criminal justice reform is critically important to me because I have a lot of constituents who are wrongfully convicted, and I also know the power of second chance. And so I think that it's really important, especially those of us in Congress, that we try to level the playing field when it comes to criminal justice. I was proud to support the First Step Act, which was the first time since I've been in Congress that we in Congress did something to actually address the barriers to people who are coming out of the criminal justice system, but also to provide an opportunity for those who had low crime, like first-time marijuana possession, an opportunity to have a pardon. It's really interesting to me that this president can pardon January 6th insurrectionists, but refuses to see the importance of fully working on criminal justice reform, again, in a bipartisan way, so that this country can literally live up to its creed, which is equality for all.
The Alabama Innocence Project says cases like McCoy's underscore the need for expanded access to post-conviction DNA testing and stronger oversight of police interrogations, especially involving minors, who oftentimes don't fully understand their rights. But the question now is, how many more men are still inside waiting to be believed? Reporting in Birmingham, I'm Ashanti Ford.